Dallas Mavericks, and so much more. Mark Cuban, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Good to see you. So, obviously, you were given a front row seat by the Hillary Clinton campaign. You're a high-profile supporter. One of the reasons it seemed that you were given this seat was to kind of psych out Donald Trump, who you've been critical of, a fellow billionaire.
Well, let me tell you what actually happened.
Okay.
So I have a 12-year-old daughter, just had her 13th birthday, and I wanted to bring her to the debate. This is a historic occasion. So the Clinton campaign reached out and said we had 2 tickets available. So when I got word of that, I just decided to tweet, hey, I'm going to the debate. But I added, they didn't commit to me for front row seats. I added front row seats. And I thought he might take the bait.
Yeah.
Hook, line, and sinker.
Speaking of taking the bait, were you surprised that he took Hillary Clinton's bait as often as he did on stage? I thought he had a really strong first half hour, and then he just, like, every single bait that she threw out there, he went after.
He talks about being a counterpuncher, and there's nothing more frustrating to a counterpuncher than your punches not landing at all. And none of his punches seemed to land. They were short, and he got flustered, and then he got really combative, and then it just got worse.
And what did you think? Did you think he had any strong moments?
I think a little bit on the economy, and he had some zingers that he felt confident in, but there were a lot of questions he just didn't answer. We're still waiting for the answer on what he's going to do about domestic terrorism, and then he stepped on himself. So at the beginning, Hillary set him up where she talked about the architect who never got paid. Then we got into the issue of global peace, deterrence, national security, and he talked about not honoring our treaties if they don't pay. Right? And here's a guy who's saying, well, maybe if I don't like the job you're doing, that I'm not going to pay you, which just translates into, if I don't like what Japan's doing or they're not paying enough, we're not going to live up to our obligation. And I think people that resonated, and she just jumped on him on it.
Now, you said that you were going to be in the front row, and you kind of made it happen. Being there, did you make eye contact with him? Because you wanted to be the taunter, right?
No, actually, I wanted to do the exact opposite, right? So the whole beginning, I wasn't looking at him at all. I was actually spending more time looking at Rudy Giuliani and the Trumps and Tiffany Trump there because I wanted to see their response. Look, I wanted to come to this debate because it's a historic event. I did not want to give anybody any excuses. I did not want to be, contrary to what people might think, the center of attention because this is too important. It's just when he took the bait after my tweet, it just kind of steamrolled from there.
Did he acknowledge you at all?
No.
You've known Donald Trump for a long time, right?
Yeah, since about 1999. Yeah.
So you've been friendly with him over these years?
Off and on. I would never say we were friends, but we've interacted business-wise and other. And there was a point in time when I supported him. Look, I said it, and he put the quote on his book that I thought he was the best thing that happened to politics in a long time because he spoke what was on his mind and he wasn't rehearsed. But I also said to him personally, and I haven't said anything that I didn't tell him personally, that at some point he was going to have to understand the issues, invest time to actually learn. I would send him links to books. And that's just not his thing.
Mark Cuban, thanks for dropping by.
My pleasure, guys. Thank you.
We want to go back to Jim Acosta. He's here. He's got a special guest. Jim, who are you with?
That's right. Wolf, I'm with Kellyanne Conway, the campaign manager for Donald Trump. Kellyanne, thanks for being with us. Let me ask you, do you feel comfortable with the way your candidate prepared for this debate? Was he prepared for tonight's debate?
Yes, he was prepared, and I think that showed, particularly when he's answering questions that are relevant to everyday American lives, like on trade, why he would renegotiate what he considers to be our very unfair, very bad trade deals. They don't benefit American workers. We've lost so many jobs to Mexico, to China, and elsewhere. Also, when he's talking about stimulating the economy, even Hillary Clinton did not deny the fact that she's going to tax people and regulate them. She almost seemed proud of the fact, almost doubling down on that. Whereas his plan would create 25 million new jobs and bring tax relief across the board. So with his child care and elder care plan, it's meant to benefit all. I also thought he had some really strong moments, Jim, when he was talking about how the vacuum that was left by President Clinton and President Obama and Secretary Clinton, that vacuum when they left Iraq really gave us the birth and growth of ISIS, that they slipped into the vacuum. It's now in 30 countries. We know that when people think about radical Islamic terrorism, they think of ISIS.
Let me ask you about that question on Iraq, because he keeps saying that he opposed the Iraq war before it began, but there is no proof that he ever opposed the war in Iraq. Where is this proof coming from? Why does he keep saying that?
He laid out some, because all of you keep saying that, because he was on a Howard Stern radio, and literally this is the exchange. Howard Stern said, so should we invade Iraq? Donald Trump. Yeah, I guess so.
But he could have said right there, I'm against the war. Right. I'm bitterly opposed to it. He didn't do that.
And in your non-professional capacity, we should hold you to account for saying, yeah, I guess so. that versus what? Hillary Clinton, who proudly, as a United States Senator, walked down into the well of the Senate and cast her vote in favor of the Iraq War. She should be held to account for that.
Do you feel that the debate was handled properly by the moderator? Do you feel that do you agree with the topics that were discussed, the questions that were asked? Are you calling into question the way this debate was handled tonight?
Well, I thought Lester Holt did a great job as the moderator under tough circumstances, meaning you just have a worldwide audience of many and the Clash of the Titans before you on the stage. There are many issues that did not get covered. I was glad that Mr. Trump raised Hillary Clinton's emails.
You're not questioning Lester Holt's handling of the job.
I already just said that he did a great job, so I don't need to repeat that. However, I'm glad that Mr. Trump raised her emails because it wasn't being raised otherwise. And Mr. Trump was cross-examined on a few points, perhaps where Mrs. Clinton was not. But I think the debate moderators have done a good job. I would include Matt Lauer in that after the commander-in-chief debate.
And let me ask you, did he ever really answer the question why he decided to put this birther issue away, why he changed his mind on whether the president... I don't think he answered it tonight on why he changed his mind.
He was asked the question 3 times tonight. He gave a whole press conference on it a week ago Friday. You guys were there.
The press conference was 39 seconds. He said something for 39 seconds. He said that Hillary Clinton was responsible for the birther issue, which is not true. Why did he change his mind?
The campaign was. It was. He's answered that question.
But not Hillary Clinton.
I can repeat the answer if you want. Okay. First of all, the fact that CNN carried the press conference live and thought it was going to be something that it was not is not Donald Trump's fault. Nobody said he was going to spend any more than the 39 seconds he did on it. You guys just made that up, frankly, and covered it live. I'm glad that you gave press coverage to Medal of Honor recipients. They deserve some recognition, so that's great on the part of CNN and others. But he has said 3 things very clearly. He said it tonight, and he has said it that day at the press conference at the old post office building. He said first that it was Sidney Blumenthal and the Iowa volunteer coordinator for Hillary Clinton that first raised the issue. Donald Trump was
being... You think he's put this issue behind him? You think it's over?
Donald Trump was being a successful businessman in 2008. Hillary Clinton was running against Barack Obama for president. She had a vicious and nasty primary against him, and she never saw Barack Obama coming, just the way they never saw Bernie Sanders coming this year. And he answered that question 3 times tonight about birth. You're asking if he's put it behind him. Of course he has, but you'll still continue to ask it.
All right, thank you, Kellyanne. Back to you, Wolf. Back to you, Wolf.
Thank you very much, Jim Acosta. Coming up, the candidates clashed over crime and police tactics. We'll have a reality check on who got it right. And more results from our instant poll. That's coming up as well.
Touchdown at the edge of the town. I was amazed when I opened the door. Saw a pretty little baby making eyes at me. She said, come on, I'ma give you what's all. Said, hey, hey, that's strange. I'm gonna make you see. Said, hey, hey, that's strange. Show you what you won't believe.
Most of the world's population will live in cities by the year 2050. How will we dwell, move, connect? Meet the thinkers. The thinkers innovating, creating, designing our tomorrow. From where, to what, to how cities may be built. Explore the dreams they have for us to not only exist, but thrive. Future Cities, Asia, Saturday on CNN, in association with Capital Land.
I'm Christina McFarlane in London, and this is CNN.
Business is always changing. Keep up with CNN Money. Maggie Lake is live in the heart of the world's economic epicenter, New York City, tracking all the action of the stock exchanges and the big business stories from around the world. Get top analysis of market movement and a daily breakdown of financial headlines. CNN Money with Maggie Lake. Weeknights only on CNN.
when staying informed makes the difference. If a hotel means business, it must have CNN. Stay at a CNN partner hotel.
As I reflect on these past 8 years, I have seen the strength of our veterans.
A CNN town hall. President Obama on the challenges facing U.S. veterans and his legacy as Commander-in-Chief.
Our commitment to our veterans is a sacred covenant. We pledge to take care of you and your families when you come home.
Jake Tapper moderates CNN Presidential Town Hall, America's Military and the Commander-in-Chief. Thursday on CNN.
This is CNN.
Lots of statements were made by the candidates at this first presidential debate. Let's do a reality check right now. Tom Foreman is standing by. Tom, what did you find out?
Well, Donald Trump was sort of channeling his convention speech when he brought up the issue of crime, saying something must be done about it, and he likes the idea of police using more stop and frisk tactics. Hillary Clinton says, no way. Listen.
We have to bring back law and order. Now, whether or not in a place like Chicago you do stop and frisk, which worked very well, Mayor Giuliani is here, it worked very well in New York, it brought the crime rate way down. But you take the gun away from criminals that shouldn't be having it.
Stop and frisk was found to be unconstitutional, and in part because it was ineffective. It did not do what it needed to do.
So who's right about this? Well, we do know that from 2002 to 2011 in New York City, stop and frisk was stepped way up. Look at the numbers back in 2002 to almost 700,000 in 2011, and crime was going down during that period of time. However, the decrease in crime did not seem to match up with such a dramatic increase here. And just as importantly, out of all these stops they made in roughly this period of time, more than 5 million stops, guns were found on people far less than 1% of the time. And when stop and frisk stopped, the crime rate generally kept going down. So all of that says that Donald Trump's claim about this is simply false, and Hillary Clinton's claim about it is true. Wolf?
Stand by, Tom. I want to go to Jim Sciutto. He's been doing a reality check as well. What did you find out, Jim?
Well, Wolf, the issue here, international trade. Donald Trump accused Hillary Clinton of flip-flopping on the Asian trade deal known as TPP. That's the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Here's what he had to say tonight.
You called it the gold standard of trade deals. You said it's the finest deal you've ever seen.
No.
And then you heard what I said about it, and all of a sudden you were against it.
So his claim that she flip-flopped on TPP, in fact, that she supported TPP but only reversed after Donald Trump criticized the deal. Hillary Clinton's response was that she only supported it, she said, before she saw all the details, claiming she only hoped the deal was the gold standard. Have a listen.
The facts are, I did say I hoped it would be a good deal, but when it was negotiated, which I was not responsible for, I concluded it wasn't.
So let's look at the facts. As Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton did call the TPP the gold standard. In fact, here is her saying that at an event in Australia in 2012.
This TPP sets the gold standard in trade agreements to open, free, transparent, fair trade, the kind of environment that has the rule of law and a level playing field.
You heard it there, sets the gold standard. You'll notice no mention of the word hoping that it sets the gold standard. Our verdict on this, that Donald Trump's accusation is true, that Hillary Clinton did flip-flop on the TPP. Of course, for this and all other fact checks, make sure you go to CNN.com/realitycheck. Wolf?
All right, Jim Sciutto, thanks very much. Anderson, back to you.
We've got our panel here to talk about a lot of the key moments from the debate tonight. We're going to replay some of them for you. We've been joined by two new folks, so let's get their takes. First, Paul Begala, who's involved in a Hillary Clinton super PAC. Right. What'd you make of tonight?
Yeah, I thought Hillary dismantled him. It took time. He started out strong. He was, as we saw with Jim Sciutto, so he was strong on trade. But as the fight went on, She got stronger and stronger. He got weaker and weaker. Maybe it was lack of prep on his point. Maybe it's just that he doesn't have the depth. But she kept getting strong. And then she had a 15th round knockout. So she dismantled him, but she had a secret weapon with Donald Trump. He was rude. He interrupted her, which I think matters. I've worked for women and I've worked for men running against women. And that matters. The same guy who tried to discredit our first African-American president, I thought was way too dismissive of our first woman nominee. He was thin-skinned. He was mendacious. The split screen, though, was particularly kind to Hillary and unkind to Trump. Now, Hillary has an advantage here that she was a first lady of Arkansas and America for 20 years, which basically is being a human reaction shot. Right? That's her job, is like to look impassively or lovingly. So she's used to that. But Donald Trump's been on TV for over a decade as a major star. And he was pouty, and he even, God help us, sighed a little bit. At one point he snorted. It was really unkind to him.
You said there was a knockout at the end. What did you believe was the knockout?
Alicia Machado.
Yeah.
When she defended, this is something that everybody, Nia and David and Gloria have been talking about before and after the debate. Most important to stand up for someone else, not for yourself, Hillary. And she did. She stood up for a woman that apparently Donald Trump called Miss Piggy, even though she was a beauty queen. That was a powerful moment.
You know, we have that,
and Miss Housekeeper, and she's a Latina.
We have that exchange. So let's just play that so in case viewers missed it.
He tried to switch from looks to stamina. But this is a man who has called women pigs, slobs, and dogs, and someone who has said pregnancy is an inconvenience to employers, who has said women don't deserve equal pay unless they do as good a job as men. And one of the worst things he said was about a woman in a beauty contest. He loves beauty contests, supporting them and hanging around them. And he called this woman Miss Piggy. Then he called her Miss Housekeeping because she was Latina. Donald, she has a name.
Where did you find
her
this?
name
Where
is
did you find
Alicia
this?
Machado.
Where did you find
and
it?
she has become a U.S. citizen, and you can bet she's going to vote this November.
Okay, good. Let me just tell you.
Mr. Trump, if you could take 10 seconds, and then we're going to have the final question.
Hillary is hitting me with tremendous commercials. Some of it said in entertainment. Some of it said somebody who's been very vicious to me, Rosie O'Donnell. I said very tough things to her, and I think everybody would agree that she deserves it, and nobody feels sorry for her. But you want to know the truth? I was going to say something extremely rough to Hillary, to her family, and I said to myself, I can't do it. I just can't do it. It's inappropriate. It's not nice. But she spent hundreds of millions of dollars on negative ads on me, many of which are absolutely untrue. They're untrue and they're misrepresentations. And I will tell you this, Lester, it's not nice, and I don't deserve that.
So, Paul, why did you think that was such a key moment?
Because, first off, she was fighting for somebody else, not only for herself. Second, that really is beyond the pale, what Trump said about Alicia Machado. Third, I'm sorry to think like a strategist, but the voters in play for Hillary, there's two groups that are most important. Most important, her base. Younger people and people of color. She has to excite them. She needs, as Nia said before, a few go-girl moments, right? That was one of them. And then the second group is college-educated white folks who cannot abide a racist. They're Republicans. They want to be for the Republicans, but they cannot abide a racist.
Let me ask something.
She killed two birds with one stone.
Here's the deal. So it was brilliant because she was able to get young people, Latinos, all that. But his response,
terrible.
Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. He's just staggering around the road.
Right.
But talking about some phantom attack he could have launched, but not going to launch.
I can tell you what the attack would be.
Well,
the attack would be, let's talk about Juanita Broaddrick. That would be the attack, absolutely.
Well, listen,
that would be
and Hillary Clinton bullying a woman who was accusing her husband of rape. That would be the attack, and he didn't want to do it because Chelsea Clinton was sitting right there.
I think he didn't
Points
want to.
to him.
Here's the deal. I think you know as well as I do, and I bet Corey can back this up. Those kinds of attacks don't work for Donald Trump. They actually outrage more women than they pull over to your side.
Defending a woman against...
Hold on a second. But here's what I think is very, very important. When you have a guy like this who has said so many awful things about women. We've talked about class throughout this race because of the Sanders, the 1%. We've talked about race. over and over again, Black Lives Matter, immigration. We have not talked enough about gender. And she raised it beautifully, and it was well raised.
Okay, let's bring in Corey Lewandowski, former campaign manager, still receives a severance from the Trump campaign. What did you make of tonight, and particularly that moment?
So look, I think there's a couple of important things to look at. You really have to break the debate down, in my opinion, to two separate categories. The first 45 minutes was one category where Donald Trump was particularly strong. What they were talking about is TPP, trade, issues where he can be on the offense there. Clearly, Hillary Clinton was on the defense in those issues. The second half of the debate, here are the issues you talked about. You talked about the birther movement. You talked about taxes. You talked about a housing discrimination case from 40 years ago, right? These are issues that clearly puts Donald Trump on the defense. What this debate was not about was an FBI investigation. Not once was the word Clinton Foundation mentioned in a 90-minute debate. Not once was the moderator bringing up the issue of emails. You know, Donald Trump brought up those issues. Donald Trump brought up the issue of TPP, Benghazi, FBI investigation. Where's the issue of the Wall Street transcripts? Never discussed. Where's the issue of Hillary Clinton talking about the deplorables and what that means for all of the 14 million people who supported Donald Trump in the primary and those tens of millions of people are supporting him today? None of those issues were discussed.
Is that Lester Holt's failure in your opinion, or Donald Trump's for not bringing them up? Because Hillary Clinton seemed to be able to, whether she was asked about something, bring up an issue that was in her favor. It didn't seem like, which is clearly a matter of preparation, no?
Well, look, I think Lester Holt brought up the issue of the tax returns, right? That was a statement, that was a question directed directly by the moderator to Donald Trump regarding his taxes. There was no question from the moderator regarding the Clinton Foundation or an FBI investigation, not even a mention that a sit-down conversation took place with the FBI. I think that is a due diligence of the moderator to raise the two largest issues in this discussion, this debate, in this presidential cycle, which is Donald Trump's taxes and Hillary Clinton lying to the FBI. The moderator should have had the opportunity.
But if your candidate was well prepped, if Donald Trump had been well prepped, why wouldn't he, in response to the question of taxes, say, you want to talk about transparency? What about the Clinton Foundation? I mean, there's an obvious,
I agree,
that's an obvious thing, and Donald Trump could have raised it himself. I mean, Lester Holt was sitting back, and she seemed to take every opportunity to jab at him, but it seems to me that he didn't take every opportunity he could have to jab at her.
To be fair, Lester Holt raised the issue of a court case 40 years ago against Donald Trump's father. Hillary Clinton didn't raise it.
She raised it. But let me just say this. His reactivity has been a problem throughout this campaign, and one of the things about these debates is it's not just about what people say, it's how they handle pressure, how they handle provocation, because people are looking at the folks on the stage and they're saying, one of these people is going to be president of the United States. How are they going to handle provocations in an office in which you can send armies marching and markets tumbling with the way you react and the things that you say? That clip that Paul liked so well, the thing that was appalling about it wasn't just what she raised. It was how he started honestly whining about how he was treated by Rosie O'Donnell and how he was treated by Hillary and so on. Let me tell you something. The presidency's a lot tougher than this.
Look, I don't disagree, but I also think it's amazing that Hillary Clinton has photographic memory for everything that Donald Trump has ever said about a female, but has to say to the FBI on 39 different occasions, I don't recall, I don't remember. It's very selective when her memory is working and when it isn't working.
But she
sits down through an FBI investigation. But my point is, it's amazing how Hillary can remember every single word that Donald Trump has ever said, but when the FBI asks her 39 times, she says, I don't remember. And further, she can't remember a classified email system of what that
Corey,
looked like.
I think you're making a better case than Donald Trump did. Donald Trump had 90 minutes on stage to make this case that you're making. You're blaming the moderator. But Donald Trump had every opportunity to do that. Why do you think he didn't?
No, I don't. Look, I'm not blaming the moderator. What I think is that Donald, do I think that the question as it relates to, Donald Trump and the birther issue that the moderator raised should have been, put next to an issue that Hillary Clinton has had to answer and has refused to on this debate stage, which was an FBI investigation? Absolutely.
But it was interesting. I mean, if he had prepared or done mock debates or something, you can easily switch an answer, or you can answer it however you want. Given that, there were pretty lengthy answers. It's a 2-minute answer instead of going down a rabbit hole of like, we'll call Sean Hannity and then Rosie and the 400-pound blogger, and there were opportunities for him to pivot, and maybe it's a lack of experience. A more experienced debater, which certainly Hillary Clinton is, knows how to do it, or it's I mean, I don't know. Is
Look,
it prep?
I think David can talk to this better than anybody, Paul. The first debate in a presidential cycle is not the end-all, be-all. And if that were the case, Barack Obama wouldn't be the president of the United States today after his performance 4 years ago. So let's see what happens, right? Look, I think Barack Obama rebounded
but
from
you know
that debate.
what happened after that debate was we prepared differently. We addressed the problems that we had in that debate. The question is, will Donald Trump do that? Because his approach here clearly failed.
John, do you think he will change in terms of prep?
I don't know the question that people inside his campaign say, and Corey knows this better than I could say, that it's very hard to get him to change, that he has his ways and he thinks he's right. And maybe this would change it, though. He thinks they worked for him in the Republican primaries. Maybe if he sees evidence that they didn't work for him here, he's obviously a very smart guy, maybe he'll say, you know what, I do need to do some things. I will say this from a bottom line perspective. There were some in the Trump camp, perhaps overly optimistic, but they came here thinking momentum in the national polls, momentum in a lot of the key battleground states, that if he had a knock it out of the park night tonight, he could take control of the race. Some saying even that we could put the race away. Now, that's out there. But that they could have taken control of the race, I think that's fair, given the momentum he had. I know what they're saying publicly. That's their job. God bless them for doing it. David said nice things after President Obama's performance in 2012. When
but nobody believed
David knew he had bombed.
Correct.
But the smart people in the Trump campaign are leaving knowing that he did not do that. He made some good points. They think he had a good economic. He did not put the race. He did not. He did not do anything that's going to increase the speed of the wind at his back.
I went
in fact, they think it slows him down.
After that debate in Denver, and tried with a straight face to tell people what they saw with their own eyes didn't happen. And that's what happens in these spin rooms, and that's why Donald Trump went into the spin room tonight.
That's why they're called
and
spin
tried
rooms.
to exactly tried to persuade people that what they saw didn't really happen. What they saw was a pretty decisive night for Hillary Clinton.
So I have a question for Corey. If Donald Trump came out into the spin room after the debate, and he said that he held back, and we were just talking about this with Jeff. Does this mean, given his performance this time, because we know one thing about Donald Trump, which is that he likes to win, and if he's perceived not to win this debate, which I don't think he won this debate, will he then not hold back next time? Will we see a Donald Trump
Right.
who
Your
does
question
raise...
is the message that he received tonight,
Yes.
he needs to hit harder.
Thank you. Yes.
What do you think?
Yes.
Look, I think when Donald Trump is talking about the issues that are affecting middle America, trade, he is winning, right? When he put Hillary Clinton on the defense, that she said that the TPP was the gold standard,
Yes.
he is winning. And that is what he's going to continue to do, is to outline her record. What he's going to do is talk about the failure of Benghazi, right? That wasn't even, it was barely addressed today. The American people have not forgotten about that issue.
But you think he'll bring up this other stuff?
Look, what I think, and what this campaign has taught everybody about Donald Trump, is that he's a counterpuncher. And when someone punches him, he responds in kind times 10. And what he didn't do...
That's a setup for punching below the belt, is what you're saying. And that's what we're going to expect. If Trump's lesson from this is he needs to be more dirty and obnoxious, then he's not as smart as I thought.
What's the difference between what Hillary said and this?
He interrupted her dozens of times.
26 times in 25 minutes.
Dozens of times. And it takes an enormous amount of discipline for Hillary to absorb that and to be strong but not reactive.
We got to take a quick break. We're going to continue this discussion. It's an important one. Also still had debate watchers weighing in on whether Trump can handle the presidency. We'll get their feedback. We'll have more instant poll numbers and reality check. Stay with us.
I want to get right back to our political director, David Shelley, and you're getting more numbers from our exclusive CNN ORC instant poll.
That's right, but we should start with that top line number again about who won the debate. Remember, this is a poll of debate watchers, and the audience watching the debate skewed a bit more Democratic tonight. But my God, Hillary Clinton had an overwhelming victory. 62% of debate watchers tonight in our poll said that she won the debate. 27% said Donald Trump won the debate. Can Clinton handle the presidency? We asked debate watchers. Here again, an overwhelming victory for Hillary Clinton. Sorry, this one is understanding of the issues. My bad. Who was better at understanding the issues? Clinton, 68%. Trump, 27%. That mirrors the overall victory. Now, can Clinton handle the presidency? 67% said yes. 32% said no of debate watchers. And this is key, folks. Can Donald Trump handle the presidency? This is one of the key questions going into the debate tonight. A majority of debate watchers say no. 55% say he cannot handle the presidency. 43% say that he can. Guys, in every single question, and there's a lot of stuff in this poll to dig into, every single score, Hillary Clinton performed better. Yes, our audience skewed Democratic, but she's overperforming even that skew. She had a very good night.
Very good night in this poll, Jake. She's going to be happy when she gets the results of this poll.
Absolutely. And I think even more broadly, she'll be happy with the results of the night, because if this is a referendum on Donald Trump, which is kind of how this election is shaping up to be, given that it is a change election and he really represents change and she represents the status quo, so it becomes about, is he acceptable? Tonight did not help him in that regard. Tonight he did not seem to clear that hurdle. He did not seem to put on that presidential debate, the presidential style, and he didn't seem, at least according to these polls, to rest any concerns aside. People still have their doubts. They still wonder. And in fact, David, earlier you talked about the foreign policy part of the debate and how overwhelmingly she trounced him on that, not so much on the economic message, which was very, very close, and for a Democratic audience, that's very, very telling, but on the foreign policy. And I think one of the things that was so effective is she talked about things that Donald Trump had said previously about this Iranian ship, about nuclear weapons, about this, and he found himself trying to explain it instead of presenting his own cohesive foreign policy agenda.
Clearly, all of that preparation she did seems to have paid off.
Listen, it does work. I mean, we know from a very different perspective, from the questioner's perspective, because when we did the debates in the primary season, it takes a lot of work and a lot of preparation to execute it well. But going into this debate, a Clinton advisor said to me, it's really going to be the best of the series of three. And, you know, this debate, perhaps she did well. The viewers think so. The voters think so. But it is the first. And as David Axelrod remembers, Barack Obama did not do so well in his first debate 4 years ago. And, you know, maybe he will learn a lesson from this, Donald Trump, to not take the bait, to when she says X, Y, and Z about his policies, to, you know, turn it around and say, I don't want to talk about that. Let's talk about what I want to talk about. We'll see if he
and in fact, and I know we're about to go back to Anderson and his panel, and there's a lot of talk about Ronald Reagan and how Ronald Reagan wasn't taken seriously in 1980, and Donald Trump is in that same mold. People forget, in 1984, it was the second debate with Walter Mondale where Ronald Reagan gave that devastating line about not wanting to exploit his opponent's youth and inexperience. The first debate was a disaster for him, and that's why
that was his comeback.
Necessitated the line in the second debate.
Two more presidential debates coming up. Let's get a couple more reality checks for us. Tom Foreman is standing by. Jim Sciutto is standing by. Tom Foreman, first to you. You've got a reality check on taxes. What did you find out?
Yeah, some of these were completely predictable attacks. For example, Hillary Clinton once again went after Donald Trump, saying, why don't you release your taxes? He once again said, I'm being audited, not a good idea.
Almost every lawyer says you don't release your returns until the audit's complete. When the audit's complete, I'll do it. But I would go against them if she releases her email.
We know the IRS has made clear there is no prohibition on releasing it when you're under audit. So you've got to ask yourself, why won't he release his tax returns?
Well, we don't have an answer to that question. We also don't have a poll of almost every lawyer to answer that. The only really thing that can be checked here is this notion of whether or not the IRS has in fact explicitly said you can release your tax returns. And yeah, on that front, Hillary Clinton said something that is true. You can do it. The IRS has said so. So there's nothing holding back Donald Trump on that front. Wolf?
All right, stand by. Jim Sciutto, you got a reality check on Iraq. What did you find out?
That's right. Donald Trump and the Iraq War. Here's what Hillary Clinton said tonight on that. Have a listen.
Donald supported the invasion of Iraq.
Wrong.
That is absolutely
wrong.
Proved over and over again.
So Hillary Clinton's claim, you heard it there, Donald Trump, like Clinton, of course, was actually for the Iraq invasion before the invasion. So let's have a look at the facts. Let's look at what he said before the war. On Howard Stern, September 2002, speaking to Stern, he asked him if he would support the invasion. He said, quote, yeah, I guess so. I wish the first time it was done correctly. That, of course, referring back to the Gulf War. In March 2003, this on Fox News to Neil Cavuto, he says, it looks like a tremendous success from a military standpoint. This just after the invasion. Now, a week after that, he did tell the Washington Post In his words, the war is a mess. And then later, in August 2004, this, of course, as things on the ground, they're getting worse and worse, he asked the question, what was the purpose of this whole thing? But that, of course, a number of months after the invasion. So our verdict here was Clinton's claim correct that Donald Trump publicly supported the war before and just after the invasion. We rate that claim as true. Once again, just a reminder for this and all our other reality checks tonight, go to CNN.com/realitycheck. Wolf?
All right. Jim Sciutto, thanks very much. Tom Foreman, thanks to you as well. Still ahead, the gender gap, how men and women saw tonight's debate differently. We're going to hear more from our focus group of undecided voters, and we're going to find out how this night influenced their vote.
Most of the world